So the grid is now being cleared, and pretty soon it just will be the drivers, their cars and this circuit as we hold our breath for another race start in the V8 Supercar Championship. There's the details, 120 kilometres, so that's 40 laps around here. 28 starters, which is great news. A full field under pretty clear skies and a light breeze. 21 degrees is the current temperature. Feels a bit cooler out there in the wind. So everything is pointing towards a very good afternoon of racing, and we've got a great circuit to do it. This is technical, this place. This is the test circuit for 17 out of the 28 cars.
And it's a great little track, and we've already detailed several times just about how complex it is and how hard it is to unravel all the right combination in terms of setup and driving and technique to get the whole thing done. But if you do get it right, you'll see some pretty numbers, and certainly several of them at the front of the field are doing that at the moment. It's 3 kilometres around here and 12 turns. That area between turns 12 and 1 is the longest section of wide open throttle on the racetrack, and it's very, very short by comparison. In fact, it's the slowest circuit on the national tour, 131 kilometres an hour. So it really begs the question mark that, you know, you've just got to be able to deal with the nuances of this racetrack and just be patient is probably the key word.
Absolutely. And when you said earlier today, roughly 35% of the lap is full throttle, that'll be a lot less as these tyres go off in this race. So the degradation, we've worked out last year, the degradation was about 0.14 of a second per lap. We think this year it might be a little bit better. The conditions are a little bit better, more like 0.12. And as the tyres degrade, so their performance goes away, the car slips and slides around more, the amount of throttle that you've got on the car is a lot less as the race unfolds.
Here's our starting grid. Craig Lowndes gets his first ever pole position here at Winton. He's won 3 races on this circuit but never had pole. Stevie Johnson on the front row of the grid. 75% of the winners in the last 45 races have come from the front row. Row 2 is Whincup and Lee Holdsworth. Then it's Paul Dumbrell, had a tough weekend in WA. Look out for David Reynolds, best ever qualifying in the V8 Supercars, 6th today. Fabian Coulthard did a good job late in the qualifying session. Happy birthday to Mark Winterbottom for yesterday, turned 30. There's Will Davison, won a race here back in 2008, and Michael Caruso makes it 2 Gary Rogers Motorsports cars inside the top 10. Gar Tander, 4-time race winner here. Rick Kelly had pole position here last year. They're in a little bit further back outside the top 10. There's Alex Davison and Jason Bright. Got Bradley Jones Racing's first ever race win in Barbagallo 3 weeks ago. Good to see Steve Owen back on the grid. We have detailed what's happened to him. Tim Slade finds himself alongside his old teammate and old sparring partner, Russell Ingall, another 4-time race winner. James Courtney, 19th position, 450 points back in the championship race against Jamie Whincup. James Moffat and Greg Murphy. Murph won a race here 10 years ago. He'll start from 22nd today. Shane Van Gisbergen, of course, a winner on the streets of Hamilton in New Zealand. Jason Bargwanna for Jana Living Racing. There's Dean Fiore, and there is Carl Reindler. Position 26 for car 21. We've got our fingers crossed today. Tony D'Alberto for Wilson Security Racing, and Warren Luff, who signals his 50th event in the V8 Supercars, round out our field. I'm excited about this one, boys. 40 laps. So we're looking for a 26-lap marker for them to come in to put in 35 litres. We've got a mixed-up grid. We've got Lowndes at the front. Stevie Johnson showing good form. Young David Reynolds there. It's got all the makings, this one, to go the distance and provide something pretty special. Larko?
Thanks, Matty. Yeah, and typically what we're seeing now, these Saturday races are hard to work out. So let's have a little bit of a look, some of the facts and the strategy that we think is going to play out here. We already know race distance, 40 laps, which is 120 kilometres around here. Fuel usage we're seeing at the moment is around about 2.5 to 2.6 litres per lap. So that gives us a fuel range somewhere around 27 to 28 laps, okay? So our critical lap number, the lap where you can pit the earliest to get yourself home, will be somewhere around 10 to 12. So I reckon the strategy is going to look a little bit like this. Here's our race laps. Here's our fuel tank. So the very simple one, fill her up at the start, 75 litres. That'll get you down to around about 28, as we said. Give it about 8-9 seconds of fuel, which will be enough for 4 tyres just, because that takes around 10 seconds now. and that'll get you home. Now, what that'll do, tyre will degrade, as Scafey just said, a lot, but you'll get fresh tyres on and you'll be able to really sprint home. But I still reckon the winning strategy, and the one we're seeing emerge a lot, is that early stop. You're going to get in, as I say, around about sort of 10, come in, you're going to put that same 8.5 seconds of fuel in, Nelly a 4-tyre stop. Now, you've got to put 4 tyres. We know historically 2 tyres is not the way to go here. 4 tyres. So you've got to get that far into the race to do that, and then away you go all the way to the end of the race. Very, very hard to know. Because of the degradation, we know the other smart play is to split your tyre laps. But what I like about this one, you get a green tyre gain here, car's really fast, and you get it again here, makes the car really fast. And because this circuit out here is really hard to overtake, you can hold track position and defend through to the end of the race. I reckon that's the winner.
Well, Larko, there is a lot of strategy going on, because there's also another strategy that people are saying they'll come in at lap 16 to 18, so just before half distance, to do it, to basically split the tyres half and half. So Neil and I, we've been talking about this all weekend. This is what we would do. We would come in just before halfway.
And here's a shock. We're at odds with Larko.
Unbelievable.
Amazing. So we think that we might go a different way with this and maybe equally use our tyres across 2 halves. We saw evidence of that in Western Australia the last time we raced. So, Larko, we're about to see a moment of truth. It'll be interesting in the next 120 kilometres as to which way this plays. And, of course, this is the game that gets played up and down the pit lane as well.
Guys, just looking at David Reynolds lining up in his best ever qualifying position, in position number 6, 3rd row of the grid. And just had a chat to his team. They said he is in such a good headspace at the moment. He's been qualifying about 7th or 8th a couple of times this year, but this is his best result and he's ready to capitalise on that.
And this is always an interesting burst down to turns 1 and 2. Off the start line, 28 super angry V8 supercars ready to rumble at Winton Motor Raceway. The 10th race of 2011, Lowndes and Johnson on the front row of the grid. Whincup and Holdsworth behind them. David Reynolds makes his best ever V8 supercar start. And they're underway. Lowndes missed it. Johnson's going to get a free ride into turn 1. Lowndes will be absolutely swamped. Dumbrell pushes through. On the side, Reynolds goes off onto the grass as expected. Somebody's had a big spin off the back. It looks as though it was Jonathan Webb. Alex Davison has a peek on the inside, makes up a stack of ground at turn 3. There's crunch between 47 and 7, so Slade and Todd Kelly get all mixed up.
There were cars everywhere, Matt. Turn 1, Paul Dumbrell was down the inside. He made contact with Lowndes, pushed Dave Reynolds off. He come back on.
Safety car.
And safety car out. Bargwanna parked, and it was as out of control into the first corner as you will ever see.
So he's awkwardly positioned just on the wrong side of the road there down at turn 2. And so they've had to neutralise this race. It was pretty wild. It started out with a pretty solid thump down in turn 1. I've got a feeling that Paul Dumbrell was involved in one of those. And Tim Slade was stricken at the back of the pack. He qualified up in, 17th, and he was dropping to the back. Todd Kelly had a drama as well. A heap of, as Mark said, a heap of people who were in trouble. Now watch Lowndes here. He just goes nowhere. It's a real chug-a-lug start for him. That's his teammate Jamie Whincup we're riding with. Here comes Paul down the inside. And yeah, so Paul hits the curb, hits Craig, who ricochets David Reynolds, who comes back on and then splits the pack, billiard style.
This is a bad jump. It bogged down. He couldn't get it away.
And I tell you who got a really good start. Just tucked in is Mark Winterbottom. He got a good enough start to manage to poke his way through behind David Reynolds. Well, all the drama's going on, but watch this. Bounce, bounce, and out you go.
And the reason that is, Matt, the reason you have that drama there, and there's Jonathan Webb spearing off, and you can see Bargwanna damaged and goes off onto turn 2. That's Van Gisbergen coming out of the boonies. And this is the left-hand front tyre flat for Todd Kelly. So, yeah, he's going to have a look. He's just said to the guys, have a look at the steering, have a look under the front. And Van Gisbergen clearly with some damage also. And the reason this happens down there is that it's 3 lanes. So the pit lane, when the pit lane finishes, the track's wide. When the pit lane stops, the track comes in. So you always have these dramas with a big wide entry into a funnel.
sidewall, dude, so car's fine. It's still a very long race to go. We haven't actually been hurt that much. Obviously, we're at the back of the queue now, but just head down, long race to go. How did the spoiler and everything look? Everything's fine with the car. The car looks fine. I was looking at it as well. It's only just pitched the sidewall and punched
come on, we're going to close this up, We'll start the motor here, Shane.
When it was in here.
Just leave out the screws, we'll do it later, come on. Okay, let's go.
It's all good, son, but it's not going to fall off. It's got enough fault. Frank, please repeat. Tim, could I get a mechanical black plate? We've got a mechanical plate for car 16, please. Okay, Damien, mechanical black flag, car 16, mechanical black flag, car 16. Confirming, Tim, mechanical flag for car 16, loose body work. Thank you, Damien. Okay, safety car, just an update. Whilst we have this incident at turn 2, we've also got a car stopped in the runoff at turn 10. We're just dealing with that as well.
Safety car received and the car is run up on turn 10.
Thank you, safety car, just maintain 16.
Safety car maintaining 60 kilometers per hour.
Okay, safety car, we've cleared up the mess at turn 2. We're now just dealing with the car that's in the runoff at turn 10.
Well, I said at the start of this race there were 28 very angry V8 supercars ready to launch. We're now down to 26 because Jason Bargwanna has been taken back to pit lane. Warren Luff has also pulled off at the exit of turn 10. His car has come to a halt. So that's 2 down, and the rest are pretty battered and bruised. Now, this will explain to us what's happened to Jason Bargwanna's Jana Living car. Some pretty heavy impact there, and he limped off to the side of the track, which is bad news in one way. He's out of the race, but good news in the fact that he didn't go in there heavy. So it was contact with another car, so something severely broken.
That'll be back in that incident with Jonathan Webb and the cars that are up the back there. And that was a mechanical black flag that you saw a moment ago for David Reynolds, who'll have to come in and have that bodywork that you saw when we came out of the break removed from that car. There's Tim Slade and Todd Kelly, and we know that Todd had tyre damage, and Tim's also drifted to the rear of the pack. So a very messy start, unfortunately, to this one.
And we've also seen Shane Van Gisbergen come in and out of the pit lane twice trying to fit that new front bar on the splitter or aero device. Now I want to just see, here is his split. I want to show it to you and why they went to the trouble to do that. Now when you look at it, it's actually not that much damage, but this is from the back of it obviously. But under here, this is where you create the low pressure that's creating the downforce. Now the worst thing that can happen is if this is damaged, the high pressure air in front of the car bleeds around here and puts high pressure in under here. Now, if you've got high pressure in under here, the low pressure that you want is not going to drag the air through. And remember, fast-moving air dragged through creates low pressure. So that's why they've gone to the trouble to replace that.
Battered and bruised, and we didn't even get a lap done. So David Reynolds processes through pit lane. He's removed the junk off the back of the Stratco car, and while the safety car's out there, we'll grab a break, get ready for the restart.
Safety car, just continue at 60 kilometres an hour. We're hoping to release you before the end of this lap. It's a bit touch and go. Just remain on standby.
Safety car received. Safety car lights out and accelerating away from the field.
Thank you, safety car.
Safety car is in line.
Safety car. Green flags, green flags, green flags.
So Stephen Johnson, driving the same car that he did in 2009, 2010, leads this race at the restart from Lee Holdsworth. Jamie Whincup in third. Craig Lowndes started from pole position, is now fourth.
Very good restart, Lee Holdsworth. He was right behind Steve Johnson. And what he's got to do now is get some pressure on, because you have to make a move before the guy in front gets into a rhythm of holding you behind. This is a hard place to pass, and the early restart form, and he's dropped off him now, he's not close enough. So Steve Johnson's done a good job through the sweeper, and that's Whincup being cheeky into turn 7.
The point that you made, Matthew, a moment ago about the car that Stephen's in, remember that they had that awful incident, the support event, the non-championship race at the Australian Grand Prix, which put Steve in his spare car, and he stayed in the spare car, where, for example, Rick Kelly is back in his primary car, the newer one, this weekend. So they're still milking very good performance out of it. Probably won't have all the latest little tweaks and iterations of the way they evolve these chassis. There's nothing wrong with the way they've adjusted it, and there's nothing wrong with the way he's driving it at the moment.
Well, the last two events, he's got the results out of it, so no rush to get him into the newer chassis. So Johnson leads the way here. Paul Dumbrell under attack from the outside from Fabian Coulthard, who has a look on the inside now at turn 12. This is position 5 and back.
And I wouldn't be at all surprised if Paul Dumbrell's got a little bit of steering damage as a result of the thump down at turn 1 at the opening of the race.
Staring straight into the sun as they approach turn 1.
Which they all have a little bit of it. See the tape on the screen for Paul Dumbrell's car, and you can see it also on Fabian's car. What everybody does here, because the run from turn 12 to turn 1, the pit straight, and then the old pit straight from 2 to 3, you cop a big dose of sunshine. Basically, you just lower the masking on the windscreen to try and help you with that problem.
So Dumbrell looks like he's battling to hold that group off with Coulthard and Winterbottom. Fabian looked pretty aggressive in that earlier part of the lap, but again, he's dropped off a little bit through the second sector. And what actually happens with the cars at this place is that sometimes there's a real difference in the way the cars behave between the slower corners and the fast stuff. So the sweeper is the fastest corner, 190k when you arrive there, about 140k mid-corner speed. And corners like this, they're little 80-kilometre slow 90-degree corners. They're totally different in the way that the cars behave. Steve Johnson, fastest lap so far, has got that little gap of just under a second to Lee Holdsworth from Whincup, Lowndes, Dumbrell. You see them all exit turn 12.
We were looking forward to a strong run from David Reynolds after his great job in qualifying and a very good run in practice yesterday. Clearly copped a whack in all that stuff that happened at the start of the race. Had to come in, take off the loose bodywork, that little shroud around the back of the fuel cell. He's gone back out and has rejoined, unfortunately, in 23rd position. There he is. That's a lot of work to do.
And Neil, it's a cruel sport, because it wasn't his fault at turn 1. Then he got bounced off. Then the damage that he incurred from someone behind, because someone's right at the back of the car, you've got to come in and do a drive-through penalty effectively. So, as we see Lowndes putting some pressure on his teammate.
And Neil just put a full stop on Paul Dumbrell. You're right, there was contact in those opening laps, but he hasn't reported any damage, so we should expect he should motor on just fine.
It was side to side, so probably a reduced risk for him there. But as you know, you've got to be so careful when you make that contact down in those turns. You bend a steering arm and then you carry it and the car limps for the rest of the race. 1:23.6, fastest lap of the race, Stephen Johnson. He has a margin of just over 1 second from Lee Holdsworth. Jamie Whincup and Craig Lowndes. Here's Rick Kelly, he's 10th at the moment. I mean, everywhere you look, it's game on in Battleland. And Tander made a mistake then, and that's going to allow Davison to have a crack at him. He didn't quite get it turned in, stopped down at 12, but Alex is on the wrong side of the road for one.
Oh, good bit of driving.
Got away with it, well done.
Very good bit of driving.
It's not over yet. Garth continues to push him back, but now Steve Owen wants a piece of it. Jason Bright wants a look at it.
I can see you holding your breath.
Well, he needed to move across. The mistake that Alex Davison made then is he should have covered at turn 3 because Garth almost fired back down the inside, but a very healthy manoeuvre around the outside of turn 1 gave him track position for turn 2. A really good piece of driving there from Alex Davison.
Tony D'Alberto straight into the garage. Check out this for the replay. Down at turn 1 at the end of 220 kilometres plus on approach. And he just muscled the Irwin car on the way out. That's where I thought it was going to end in tears.
And it's not easily done. That's not a thing that you very often see down there, to actually clean somebody up on the outside. Aided by the fact that Garth had such a tardy run off 12. His exit speed was slow, so he didn't have as much to fight with. But I really flinched as they went through turn 2 for all the same reasons that you guys have mentioned.
And Garth will be unhappy with himself because it was his little mistake. You picked it straight away. He made a little mistake at turn 12, which has now put him back in this pack. And they're pretty lively there. There's Steve Owen and Jason Bright right behind, with Russell Engel also in the same group.
Alex was on the podium in race 2 of the season. Race 1, rather, of the season at Yas Marina Circuit in Abu Dhabi. This is his 50th championship event. He's raced all around the world. He's got plenty of experience. And he was ready to take that fight up to Garth Tander. Stephen Johnson's doing a fantastic job out the front. He's doing exactly what you said he needed to do, Scafie, which is the only thing you can do when you're out the front, put down better times, and he's done it. He's now got a 1 second lead over Lee Holdsworth, who pretty soon will have Jamie Whincup bearing down on him.
Matty, that opening lap, Tate Arte has left Tony D'Alberto with bent steering. That's why he's in the garage.
Okay.
Thanks, Barretts. Yeah, there were a lot of cars in that mid-pack that we didn't really catch because everyone was spearing off and there was dust and corruption everywhere, and in the end we knew there would be some other cars damaged, and obviously, unfortunately for Tony, he was in the middle of that drama with Bargwana, Jonathan Webb, Shane Van Gisbergen, and a lot of cars damaged. So there'll be cars still in this field with steering damage and stuff also that we won't really know until we finish.
Stephen's really putting a nice little air gap now between himself and Lee Holdsworth. That ability to be able to regulate your own pace at the front without any other pressure is really going to help with the management of these tyres for Johnson.
But as predicted, Whincup is on a charge on the 10th lap out of 40 here at Winton. Well, Stephen Johnson is the race leader by 0.7 of a second. He's a wanted man around here, and Lee Holdsworth, who's second, is a hunted man because Jamie Whincup, Craig Lowndes, Paul Dumbrell, Fabian Coulthard are all lining up to get him. Remember, if you need to leave our coverage, take your Telstra NextG mobile thanks to Big Pond Sport, and you won't miss a beat. Larko?
Yeah, listen, you three big tough guys up there with the strategy bashing me up down here. You got computers and people and engineers. I just got a texture and a whiteboard down here. Now, I reckon 12 or 14, I reckon, will be the number, because the other thing you've got to consider here is the pit lane entry. As you know, the cars can bank up there, and if the safety car rolls, you're gone. So one of the things you've got to do here at Winton is get in, get out, and not get caught up in any safety car. And we do know from history, high incidence of safety car at this circuit. I'm predicting 14 as a lap.
Oh, you're a joke. There's a lot going on. Dumbrell was down the inside of Lowndes, then they had a bumping duel at turn 10. That's allowed Fabian Coulthard now to do the crisscross, and he's back up the inside for turn 12. And a little bump.
He's going to push him wide.
Which they were told last night at the driver's briefing that that's not on, so that'll be interesting to see what people think about that. But what Larko was just saying, he's now had another bet, Neil, because he just said a minute ago on that whiteboard, if we did a little replay, it's about lap 10, he was saying, wasn't it? So now he's gone out to 12 or 14. He's just trying to get to 16 or 18 is what we were saying.
He's sneaking up to our number.
Unbelievable.
But he's very sensitive, so go gently with him.
Yes.
1.2 seconds is the gap, Johnson.
There's been a change. The predicted change happened. It didn't take too long for Jamie Whincup to round up Lee Holdsworth. So Stevie Johnson leads Whincup. Holdsworth now third. Lowndes is fourth. Fabian Coulthard fifth. Paul Dumbrell, then Mark Winterbottom, who you're riding with. So there it is.
He looks very strong at the moment, Whincup, and this has been a hallmark of the Team Vodafone performance, the ability to have nice, consistent pace, look after their tyres.
Fabian
Lowndes is a little vulnerable at the moment to Coulthard.
Just funny, isn't it? I mean, Craig Lowndes was clearly the fastest in practice yesterday. He lands it on pole today. This is the move from Whincup down at turn 11.
Good pass.
Did it pretty authoritatively, didn't he? It was pretty straightforward. And in fact, Lee just he didn't even bother to fight.
Yeah, so Lowndes finds himself on pole position for the first time here. Gets it bogged down in a flash. Goes from first to fourth, and now he's trying to hold on to fourth position because Fabian's coming fast. So
on the subject of making ground, Jamie Whincup on that last lap a 1:24.7 and Johnson a 1:25.2. So watch this gap to Whincup, and Lowndes is struggling here. He locked the brake at 3. He just managed to scurry back online there. He's getting real pressure, so watch for Fabian to have a think about up the inside at between 6 and 7. He won't get it done here. He'll be starting to concentrate on his approach to 7. He can shallow it up there, but he doesn't. He didn't quite get close enough to do it. But Craig really... In fact, Craig's on the radio talking at the moment, but he's obviously not happy with something with the car.
It hasn't looked after its tyres as well as Whincup's. And you can see there Coulthard putting an immense amount of pressure on Craig Lowndes. So they'll want to come in and get these tyres off and give it a tweak, roll centre or an adjustment to make the car better in the second phase of this race. And what happens with this is that the guys make a choice as to how hard they drive the car. So you may actually come off a little bit and drive it at 9/10, for instance, to not hurt the tyres the whole time. So you're slightly 3 or 4 tenths slower. That gives you a better consistent run over 10 or 15 laps. But what's happened is when they do degrade, which is what happened to Lowndes, they really degrade hard.
Whincup in.
So this is the first call. Mark Larkham, lap 15. God, lucky he wasn't right. Never hear the end of it.
Gartander's coming as well. Just run down and turn Larko's microphone off.
Yeah, exactly.
Still waiting on fuel. Fuel's out.
Got a bit of flame there.
Green tyres, green tyres. Fuel's done.
Okay, so what type of track will they find now? The sun has dipped away. The cloud cover's come over. It's definitely cooler. So new tyres on. This is going to be a different experience for Jamie Whincup this time around.
Exactly. So what you've got to do is get a feel for the new grip straight away. So the first thing is assess the grip level. Second thing is as the afternoon progresses, the grip level will come up. Neil said earlier in the telecast that there's a weird little happy hour at this place about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and the way that the circuit responds is definitely with a higher grip level. So, but you can't use it with a high grip level like Craig Lowndes has got right now, because he's got no grip. He is really struggling. Fabian Coulthard right behind him, and Lee Holdsworth now has just snuck away.
Now the interesting thing here will be the speed relativity between Whincup and Johnson. And Johnson's he's responded. So he doesn't want to make himself vulnerable to what they just did at Team Vodafone. Quite a few of them now jumping in.
Will Davison and Rick Kelly follow him in. Steve Owen follow him in as well. Stevie Johnson last won a race in the V8 Supercar Championship back in 2001. A decade between drinks.
Johnson had a small cushion over Whincup. Let's watch and see how this plays out.
He didn't come in aggressively then, did he?
But he was accurate.
He was accurate, but it was a bit of time on the way into the pit box.
Okay, so here comes Whincup up the front straight.
Easy.
And now Johnson exits pit lane, and he'll slot in behind him. So advantage Whincup in that stop. And well, massive lock-up.
Cold tyres that haven't come up to pressure, and he has to hope that he didn't carry the brake long enough to actually put a mark on the tyre there. That's another second that he's given away when he could least afford it, so that's frustrating. And he'll have driven out of there and immediately seen the Team Vodafone car, and there's just a little feeling you get where you're just a bit crestfallen for the moment when you see that car.
A little bit mentally rattled to see the car go down in front of you, and you've got a handful of a car with brand new cold tyres into turn one. Everything conspired against Stephen Johnson right there.
So I still haven't really got my brain around. We'll work it out for you. But he's lost 4.5 seconds. He's 4.5 seconds behind, and he was in front by almost a second when he come in. So he's effectively lost 5 seconds versus Jamie Whincup.
And Stephen could be vulnerable to Lee Holdsworth here.
I think he will be for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we know that Jamie Whincup history tells us that he's an expert of a fast outlap.
Craig's asked. So look at the roll centre change. Look at that.
That's as much as you'd ever see change.
Oh, Craig asked on the radio for a massive roll centre change.
It'll be interesting to dissect this and see the in-lap for Whincup and the out-lap versus the time that Stephen Johnson did on the way in and way out, because that's where they make the gains, the hidden gains that Team Vodafone are very good at with their stellar driver at the front. So Lowndes arrives on the scene with Will Davison and Garth Tander on a flyer. Fabian Coulthard is our race leader. Paul Dumbrell's in second. Mark Winterbottom is third as the strategies come into play. Well, here comes Tander. Garth Tander gets a slot from Will Davison.
And he just done the fastest lap of the race, Garth Tander. That was a nice move on his former teammate, Will Davison. He thought twice, and then he went, damn it, I'm going in there. So he jammed it in, got the move done. Track positions, everything at the moment on this place. Dumbrell in for service.
So they've done a really good job with their stop in terms of strategy, Tander and Whincup. Come in at the same time. They've gained positions, and that was a great move of Garth's down the inside of Will Davison, as Neil said, because you've got to have some opportunism in these sorts of passes, and he took the opportunity with fire down the inside and got that move made. And the way that it's rolled out for him is that he will be, when all the stops and everything stabilises in this race, he'll be behind Fabian Coulthard.
Now Lowndes has got warmer tyres than the two in front. He wants to crisscross and go up the inside, which he does. He'll take Will Davison with him. They'll both slide past Michael.
Oh, and he's got hit.
Spun him around. Caruso goes off at turn 3.
And Winterbottom, the race leader, will be in this lap.
So Alex Davison, Jason Bright, James Courtney, James Moffat, Carl Reindler, Todd Kelly, and and Shane Van Gisbergen, and also Reynolds and Webb are those yet to pit for tyres. So Fabian Coulthard and Michael Caruso get all crisscrossed. So your effective race leader is Jamie Whincup. And you're right about Garth Tander. He's going to be top 5 by the time all this shakes out.
It didn't look like Fabian got far enough up the inside there at turn 3. And I'd suggest that they'll have a look at his move earlier in the race at 12 as well, where he basically fed Dumbrell off the road.
That was a very aggressive entry into the pit bay. Then you see the car arrive. All the wheels were locked. It pulled up exactly on the mark. But he was very aggressive in terms of how long he could hold the 40k speed limit for in pit lane. Almost went off the road again. It's very easy to understeer straight off because the front tyres are cold as his teammate comes up behind him. So he's just got to get himself through the next 3 or 4 corners to be able... And he gets a little bump there from his teammate, and down the inside goes Will Davison. So a healthy manoeuvre there between 2 teammates, with Greg Murphy right behind also looking on.
Now, the first in the queue, other than those that were caught up at the very beginning of the race and had to make unscheduled stops, is Whincup. To reiterate, he's 10th at the moment. Behind him is Holdsworth, who did clear Stephen Johnson for 3rd. It's still game on here up at turn 7. This time it's Murphy and Winterbottom. Fabian Coulthard in there again. But this is indicative of the sort of stuff that we always see. There's massive high probability of aggravation and contact on this racetrack, i.e.
Fabian Coulthard.
And as Alex Davidson just comes down the pit lane, the last couple of cars, everyone I've seen pit has put 4 tyres on. Now, we didn't see that last year, you recall. Some guys tried 2 tyres because fuel then seemed to take about that 8 or 9 seconds, and 4 tyres took about 3 seconds longer on average just watching the pit lane. So people were prepared to sacrifice that extra bit of time to get away from the tyre degradation. Now, you blokes, I tell you, you're on tonight. We're going to get the timing sheets. Dead set. I watched that. Whincup come in. It was lap 14, pal.
Sorry, Larko, we couldn't hear you. By choice. James Moffat, some debris on the...
It's a huge chunk of pickup that's come out of the front splitter of the car, because what happens is it rolls the little bits. They're like cigars. They roll off the tyres and it feeds them into the inner guard and also in behind the splitter. And then when you hit a bump, it flicks it out.
1:23.33 is the new fastest lap time. It belongs to Michael Caruso, right down in 23rd position. So who are the winners and losers out of the pit stop shuffle so far? Well, Jamie Whincup, clearly, when all this settles down, he will be the race leader. Lee Holdsworth is in effective 2nd place, and Stephen Johnson is still top 3, but he'll be ruining the 4 or 5 seconds he lost between him and Whincup stop. Didn't Mark Winterbottom come out into a brawl, first of all with his teammate, and then Greg Murphy?
And he was probably close enough then to have had a dive down the inside of Will Davison and didn't take that opportunity, and he'll rue that day because he's going to be held up in behind his teammate now for the next few laps while Murphy attacks the back of his car.
Fastest man on the racetrack is Michael Caruso, who's got a bit of fresh air and those fresh tyres, and no doubt he's got his heart rate up too. So 1:23.3, in fact just eclipsed by himself, 1:23.1 on the last lap, so he's got good pace. And Lowndes reporting that the change that we saw them making to that car in the pit lane has smartened it up no end.
So Courtney is now the on-track leader from Carl Reindler, Todd Kelly and David Reynolds. Kelly and Reynolds have both been through pit lane but not scheduled stops. So those 4 on your Coates Hire leaderboard will have to come in sooner or later, meaning that this man will be in control of the race. He's won here twice before.
Mark Scaife made the comment to me earlier in the day about just how accurate Jamie Whincup drives his car. We complimented him on the job that he did in Western Australia. A great bounce back from the tough run in New Zealand. His shootout lap there was beautiful, but things fell apart in the race. You don't often see his car sideways, Mark, and this is a place, if ever there was a place, where you can be easily conned into driving the car too aggressively, lighting up the rear tyres and sliding everywhere.
Absolutely. It's a place that you and I have commented many times over the years, you've almost got to drive the car at 9/10 to get the best from it. But the way that he drives the car, if you watch him closely, he's got the wheel position right alongside the curb. You never see him smash off the curb. You never see him sideways. You never see wheel spin. You never see drama. And he's got a really beautiful technique and a very nice way of modulating the throttle. And this is what we talk about. This is on board now with Will Davison. Oh, it might be to Mark Winterbottom. Mark Winterbottom. And the amount of throttle, we've said already, that you can't use very much throttle in this style of circuit. And as the tyres degrade, the amount of throttle that you can use is much less. And as you can see there, the little down change, just watch this. You watch how long it takes to get to full throttle. A long time out of the corner. Now, onto the back straight, just have a close look at turn 9. So this is 8 up to 9. Now this is the corner. Would be way in excess of 50 metres past the corner before you're actually on full throttle. Now that's a long, slow corner. This corner, not as much, because it's just a 90-degree corner, so the exit is effectively shorter. And they all complain about lots of different areas of the corner. So they approach the corner, they have an entry, an apex, and an exit. And they'll give comments to the engineers through the weekend as to where the car, or how the car behaves, and where it does things wrong in what section of the corner. You get to the end of the main straight here now. Watch the brake modulation over the bump. Nice little get down changes. Savage change direction. We saw a great shot of the cars from behind earlier on today through that left and right at turn 1 and turn 2. Look at the way that you have to trail the brake all the way into turn 3. And again, this 90-degree corner, much more severe on the throttle. And have a look at the sweeper now. So we're coming up with the sweeper. Trail the brake in. Now on the throttle, but just balance the car with the throttle. Not on full throttle. See the amount of throttle there in the middle of the corner? A little spike of throttle, and then slow the car down for turn 7. There's a lot of car control and a lot of work that the driver does in that area to maintain the change of direction and make it as smooth on the tyre. And with good technique, there's a real gain to be made in terms of how you go about that.
You don't see an awful lot of that right pedal at the throttle stop for terribly long, do you? Here's James Courtney, race leader in now. He had a 27-second margin, but it's an artificial lead. This will reveal Whincup at the top of the tree, and James will slot back in about midfield.
Very important day for James Courtney, especially with Whincup going to the top of the list. James is 450 points back in the championship at this stage. And if Whincup continues this charge, it's going to be a long haul to the end of the year to defend his overall series. In many ways, this man is the modern-day master of V8 supercars. Already 4 race wins out of 9 in 2011, and he finds himself at the top of the list yet again. On lap 24 out of 40, Jamie Whincup has a 3.6-second lead over Lee Holdsworth. There it is, and there is Stephen Johnson in 3rd. Rick Kelly's behind him in 4th, quietly but assuredly going about his business. Gart Tander up to 5th. Great effort, starting from 11th. And tucked in behind Tander is Craig Lowndes. That's just a very typical Jamie Whincup effort. This one is certainly not done and dusted yet, but Whincup has a way of popping out of pit lane at the right time, in the right place, with the right speed.
The guy that's done best strategically in all of the shuffling is Tander here in car 2. I mean, of all the players out there, he qualified down in 11th. He's currently racing for 5th. He did that by hitting reasonably early relative to those around him and had good pace.
And so did Rick Kelly
as well. He qualified 12th. And he's in 4th.
Yeah. So those two guys, as Neil was saying, they basically come off from 11th and 12th off the 6th row of the grid, and they've done a very good job. So there's Whincup, Holdsworth, Johnson, Kelly, Tander, Lowndes, Dumbrell. That gets you to 7th.
Bit of a wait back for Alex Davison, then his brother Will. And it was Mark Winterbottom, Greg Murphy, Fabian Coulthard, the Enforcer, Steve Owen, Jason Bright, Michael Caruso. Here's James Moffat and Tim Slade pairing up. There's Courtney. And there is Shane Van Gisbergen, takes you down to 20th position. Dean Fiore. Behind him is Carl Reindler. A bit of track space in between those two, and David Reynolds started with his best career qualifier up in 6th. Now finds himself in 23rd.
And Dunlop advising the air's just cooling out now to about 16. The track is staying at about 20. It's dropped 1 degree. But that will also begin to affect car behaviour around here. 24.2, 1 minute 24.2 last lap for Jamie Whincup. Precisely the same time for Lee Holdsworth. Fastest man of the top 4 cars, actually Rick Kelly. Stephen Johnson did a 1:24.1. Rick Kelly did a 1:24.16. And Rick, who, as you pointed out a moment ago, is 4th, is 5.9 off the lead of the race. Now, this little battle here that we're looking at is between the brothers FPR. And it's Will Davison in the trading post entry and Mark Winterbottom. They're 9th and 10th.
And I said it a little earlier, he should have had a dive when he had the opportunity, because...
Well, you know what it's like.
You just get held
you get
there.
That one little moment in time where the window's open by a couple of thou. If you don't jam yourself in there and scramble through the window, you're stuck.
And as more of those tyre, and you can see the tyre debris, will just pick up on the shot in a second. As the soft tyre degrades, lots of rubber ends up on the outside of the track. We call it the marbles. And as all that happens, as all those pieces of rubber end up way offline, it makes the racetrack into basically a single lane racetrack. So much harder to pass as the race unfolds. And as I said, Mark Winterbottom should have had a lunge at turn 10. He didn't do it. And as it's turned out, he is going to be locked in behind his teammate there. So these are the guys we already said. Really great job, mover and shaker there, Rick Kelly and Garth Tander. They're the 2 guys that have gained the most positions. 8 positions for Kelly, 6 positions for Garth Tander. The other guy that's done a really good job is Alex Davison, who's also gained 5 positions. He's down in 8th spot as we speak. The guys that have lost, so countering that, Craig Lowndes has been the worst. He's lost 6 positions from a great effort in qualifying. So,
well, the start was bad, and then the balance of the car was bad, and he just didn't recover. It's a lively battle here between old teammates and adversaries. Greg Murphy and Russell Ingall, they're in a battle for 12th and 13th at the moment. And Courtney was showing fast sector splits. Remember, he's on the youngest tyres out there, many of the key runners.
Russell's doing a very Russell job here.
Tap, 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 guess who?
And he's quietly snuck up on the back of this group as well, and Jason Bright's going with him. So the way this is going, it's just a matter of time before Russell either sneaks up past Greg Murphy or pushes Murphy out of the way.
I was about to say, he hasn't done a Russell yet because he hasn't unloaded him.
I was trying to think of a nice way to say it, and there is no nice way to say it, because you just know what's going to happen. But the interesting thing is that they've joined the other group ahead of them ever so slightly. So it's single file as she goes, with the marbles on both sides of the circuit flicking up now. Look at the big bumps there on approach into the braking area for turn 1. That's where it all went down off the start. And when Craig Lowndes looks back at this race, he will rue that start. Jason Bright
puts a move on Russell Ingall, and this is the guy that got a race win up in Western Australia, Jason Bright. They've not had a good weekend with any of their cars for absolute speed this weekend at Brad Jones Racing.
Local racetrack.
Local racetrack.
So you go all the way to the other side of the country and you dominate. You come to Albury.
Just down the road. It'll be a snack. We know it like the back of my hand. It's amazing business, isn't it? And looking at the leaders the last time through, both Whincup and Holdsworth. Jason. Easy. 1:24.8 the last lap for both of them. So both those two at the top of the field are still the fastest cars on the racetrack at this point.
So Jason Bright came in on lap 20, Greg Murphy on 16. So Brighty's tyres are 4 laps younger than those in front of him.
He looks pretty pacey, doesn't he? He's come straight onto the back of Murphy You have to get a good run now. So the spot to make that move is Jason Richards in the foreground. And Phil Keed on the right-hand side of your screen is the engineer for Jason Bright.
And
so
Andrew Edwards in the middle.
He needed to be closer to Murphy for that spot there. He needs to be right up behind on the exit of turn 12 to get that move made. But he looks like he's quite good out of turn 2. Ooh, big brake lock.
He really committed to having a look at the inside of 3. Then he concentrated a lot on his exit out of 2, Jason Bright. But he picked up that inside front at just the wrong moment. That means you've basically got to go through the whole process again now, because there isn't much between them at this section of the racetrack.
Bright takes a slightly tighter line through the middle of the sweeper. See that compared to Murphy. And here's the teammates. They were told in the driver's briefing last night not to just guide you.
He's going to get in here.
He is, and Coulthard's going to be healthy with that manoeuvre also. That's a very good piece of driving from Fabian Coulthard to get down the inside and make that spot up. So finally, Winterbottom gets by his mate, and there's going to be some contact at turn 10. Good bit of driving from both those guys then, because I thought that was going to end in tears. It was a last-minute plunge by Will Davison.
He's going to try a crisscross here.
And Fabian knew that he was, and he slowed him up in the middle of the corner to stop him from coming back on the other side. So quite a good exchange there. Right-hand side.
Look at the rubber pick up the debris that we've been speaking about, and that shot down the bottom left corner. That's the stuff that we had up a little earlier, where you see big clumps of it drop on the road.
And that's the right-hand rear. So we'll just stay on this through to the sweeper, because that'll be the highest load of the lap. And it does the most amount of work in this corner right here.
They've got a bit of work to do to catch Jamie Whincup. But Lee Holdsworth is holding it steady, 3.3 seconds adrift. But there are plenty of campaigners out there ready to fire more shots before this one's done on lap 30. So Jamie Whincup has a 3.2 second lead now over Lee Holdsworth. Johnson Stephen, that is, in third spot. Then Rick Kelly, Gartander, Craig Lowndes, Paul Dumbrell, Alex Davison, and then this man, Mark Winterbottom, in ninth spot. Turned 30 yesterday. 225 races and 15 wins. He's never finished outside the top 5 in the championship since he's been at Ford Performance Racing. And right now he's 9th in the championship coming into this weekend. So a lot of hard work ahead for Mark frosty Winterbottom. His wife Renee and little son Oliver are here today watching him punch on inside the top 10. So who's got what left in terms of tyres as Steve Owen and James Moffat come side by side?
Yeah, he deserved that. He ran him wide at the previous corner and he deserved to get pushed at the next one. So this is not over. This is turn 9 into turn 10 and there'll be more to come. Crisscross from Moffat, good move. Very well driven, James Moffat. Excellent drive. And Van Gisbergen comes to play on the outside also. So, and if he gets that done, he's done very well. No, ugly, but he's... Oh, he's giving him a bump, he's giving him a bump. And he held that on him then, and Van Gisbergen had to come out of the throttle to avoid firing Steve Owen into the paddock. So Van Gisbergen gives Owen a lifeline.
This is all for 20th.
Well, this is for 20th, and when your tyres are gone, you're gone. So this is the degradation we said before, that it's like they go off the end of the plateau. They're on the slippery slide with people chucking soap at you when they're like that. And this is the manoeuvre, so...
Watch the exit off 12. This is 11. Watch 12. Focus on the VIP Pet Foods car here of Steve Owen. Tries to pick the throttle up to defend, and the massive slide. And then Van Gisbergen had to just give the throttle a little bit of relief to not end up making contact. Here it is again from the other side. Check it out. And it's actually on the rev limiter in second gear. You can hear it banging away in the background.
So Dumbrell onto the back of Craig Lowndes.
This is 6th and 7th, Lowndes and Paul Dumbrell.
Hey guys, just while I'm on the pit lane wandering around, an icon of our sport standing here. Very proud this weekend, mate. Stevie's done a ripper job in qualifying, hanging in there in third, doing a good job.
Yeah, it's just a pity that we lost out in the pit stops, I think. So the car's got the pace, which is a good thing.
Dick, you must be happy. I just noticed that the team, there seems to be a bit of a rebuilding. You've got some good guys in here. There's good team spirit in here now. Sounds like DJ Arziano could be back on the up and up.
Well, as you know, Largo, any team's only as good as the people that are in it. And we've got a great bunch of people.
Well done, mate. It's good to see you smiling. Now, while I got you, we're going to whip around the corner here. The 888 guys. You see here, here's Mark Dutton I want to catch up with around here. We'll just see if we can disrupt him for a sec. Hey, Dutto, I know you're busy. Jamie come in quite early, lap 14, I think it was, mate. Lap 14? Lap 14, yeah, it was. Lap 14. Dutto, it was early. I mean, how's his tyres going to go now for this last little run? Is he going to be vulnerable?
So far he's good. We saw him adjust the bar down a little bit more than we'd like, but he's tweaked it back up and punched out some good more lap times. So I think he'll be safe to the end.
Good call coming in on lap 14. Well done, mate. Keep it up.
Oh, can you labour on that any more, Larko? You get the number right. We're very happy that you've got that right. We've got you in the pit to give us the latest information, and you're doing a very, very good job.
That should be enough inflation.
That's
They've been going for about 6 months.
Larko was waiting for the butt.
Yeah.
So,
PD, here we go. He's got him. Craig's hanging on. He might have enough pace at the moment to threaten Garth Tander here as well. So this is 5, 6 and 7, this battle that we're focused on. These fellas are roughly 12 odd seconds from the lead of the race. Whincup last lap 125.5. He's got 4.8 seconds over Holdsworth, 126.3 last lap for lead. So Jamie's pace is superb. Stephen Johnson at 125.8. Stevens now 6.7 off the lead. Kelly at 26.1, Tander at 26.8. Dumbrell was traffic that lap, 26.8. Lowndes 27.3. So Craig really beginning to struggle now for grip, but also we saw a passing manoeuvre there which hurts his lap speed on that lap.
And at the front, in just the last few laps alone, Jamie Whincup's put an extra 1.5 seconds between him and Lee Holdsworth, who's trying to hold on. Stephen Johnson tucked in behind him. What's Paul Dumbrell got left?
And as we've said, Matt, this last 5 laps, there's a lot of difference in the last part of these runs. So you'll see some guys that have either from their driving technique or from an engineering standpoint have got a much better balance and they've been much easier on the rear tyres, and you'll see some difference late in this race as to who's been able to do a good job of that versus those that have used them very hard. Rick Kelly's definitely the standout performer of the day. It's been the best effort. He's 8 positions better than he qualified. So in 4th position, Rick Kelly. Garth Tander, we've already said, good job too. And there's Lowndes way off the road. That's down at turn 11, between 11 and 12, and he got back on, but he's come back on behind Fabian Coulthard, and that's dropped Lowndes out of 7th position back to 11th position. So 4 spots after starting on pole position for this race.
And here's what happened, and he couldn't get the car stopped at 11. He tipped it in and it broke away in the rear. Didn't arrest enough of the speed out of it, and that angle didn't show how much it was sliding, but it was sliding a lot at turn 11. Then it takes forever to get back on through all the gravel and grunge down there. It takes forever to clean the tyres up as well.
Jason Bright.
Now, I was about to make the point that Bright qualified 14th, and his pace on the last tyre set at the back end of the stint was very strong, and he's proving it again now on this particular segment with the second tyre set. So Bright you can include with Rick Kelly and Garth Tander for having done a great job on the recovery trail.
And Tander's in strife. Dumbrell and Alex Davison have got genuine car speed, and down the inside goes Paul Dumbrell. Good move, very good move. Garth's a bit wide, and that'll also leave him vulnerable for Alex Davison.
And Garth's been around long enough now to know when he's shot, and if he is losing the tyres on that car, points are the most valuable thing that he can walk away with, any rather than being in the paddock. Now, last lap for Jamie Whincup. How's the drop-off here? 1:27.1 for Jamie, 1:26.4. Remember the sort of numbers we saw in qualifying in the 22s. So the margin, 3.6 seconds Whincup to Holdsworth. At 25.9, Stephen Johnson. He's got a ton of pace compared to Whincup and Holdsworth.
And Bright at 25.12. 2 seconds faster than the leaders. So you can see the gap. Last lap, Bright was behind Mark Winterbottom. Look at the gap in the 1 lap.
Now, what Bright's done in this race is exactly what we saw them do in the last race in Perth. That's split the race in half. This is the half-half routine.
You mean different to Mark Larkham's lap 14?
Yes, I do.
Yep.
So he came in on lap 20, 40-lap race, halfway. And let's see what Jason Bright can do.
So here comes Bright with plenty of car speed. And what he'll do now is he'll need to get oh, he's got to fight on the inside. That wasn't in the plan. But he needs to get a really good exit to be close enough to Alex Davison. Remember, Davison's got better speed than Tander too, so Davison will want to make a move on Garth.
Actually, Bright turned in too late then at 10. I think he was just blinded by what was the 2 cars in front masking the corner. Took him offline. Oh. Here we go, move down the inside for Alex. Oh, he's not going to stop it. He's not going to stop it, and that's just a gift for Jason Bright.
And Bright now, you can see Ross and Jim Stone there. Ross Stone in the foreground. Not that happy about that one.
That was a grimace from Jimmy Stone.
Up the front straight for Bright. He's looking for 6th position.
Easy.
You just gave him a rap. You said easy, and he couldn't make it.
But look at Alex Davison. He might well pop up here at turn 3 and get 6th off both of them. And he does so. And look at that. Mark Winterbottom buys back in as well. Fabian Coulthard's not done with yet. On lap 38 out of 40 with shot tyres, these guys still know that there's points on offer here.
Courtney stopped on lap 23. He's got the youngest tyres of anybody in this group. Now, the other thing is our cameras are doing a wonderful job out there at the moment of defying the truth in terms of the light, because it is very dark out there. It's very dark. So these guys are starting to fail in terms of tyre grip. They're all tightly bunched, fighting for a sheep station. And anything's possible in the next few minutes. But watch in particular for Bright and Courtney. They've got a little bit more rubber, a little bit more grip on their side. So take 2 now for Jason Bright. He's working on Alex Davison on the run down to 10. Here's Courtney on his effectively a teammate, Fabian Coulthard. He's got the lights on. He goes down the inside, Courtney, so he puts the move on. Look at the brake glow down there. Now Courtney has to deal with his teammate, real teammate, Garth Tander.
What do you mean?
I know, they're all from the Walkinshaw Racing stable. Try and untangle the mess that I've created for myself here.
Just give up. Let's just watch him go into turn 1. So Tander this time sees Courtney go past him. But Tander's just easy pickings for these guys.
James actually had a little bit of trouble getting it all pointed in the right direction coming up through turn 2 there. Fortunately, the lights helped cover up the mess.
They did, didn't they?
In a high beam, nobody could see what I'm doing. But he was sliding and pointing the wrong way.
Alex Davison is still holding off Jason Bright for 6th. So our race leader is Jamie Wincup by 3.7 seconds over Lee Holdsworth. Stephen Johnson is third. Rick Kelly started 12th. He's in fourth. He's really on a good roll at the moment, Rick. Paul Dumbrell, top 5, and then Davison and Bright. So they're second and third on the road.
Tell you what, Stephen, he's got good pace at the back end of this now. It's going to be a little too late, but he's really threatening in the last 3 kilometres. Meantime, by the way, Bright is still gnawing away at the back of Alex Davison.
And Junior's now trying to dig his teeth into Lee Holdsworth. So Holdsworth's very good at defending. They're pretty well evenly matched for speed. They know they won't be catching Jamie Wincup this time around, who will coast away to his fifth win in 10 races for the season. What a start.
So Alex Davison came in on lap 19, so he's effectively the same strategy as Jason Bright. They're in the 25s at the moment. 125.8 for Alex Davison, 125.8 for Jason Bright. Courtney at 25.4. So Courtney, the fastest man on the track, in 9th. And he's the best part of 3 to 4 seconds faster than some of those in and around him. Here's the race leader. Half a lap. Nice margin, 3.8 seconds to Holdsworth. Another beautiful exhibition by Jamie Wincup.
And Courtney just got Mark Winterbottom, so that's moved Courtney to 8th.
Geez, Stephen might make a liar of me here, because it might still be a tangible thing for him to be able to grab second place. He's very close.
As they go down to turn 10, Wincup heads towards turn 11. And yet another victory in his career. This will make it 47 race wins. Just one shy of both Peter Brock and Garth Tander as equal third on the list. But Jamie Wincup yet again uses his smarts to claim another victory.
Great drive, mate. Makes up for the mistake you called.
And Holdsworth and Johnson are going to drag it to the line.
So close.
Holdsworth got there.
Yeah, great job, boys.
That was close.
By 300ths of a second. 300ths of a second.
So Lee Holdsworth second, Stephen Johnson third, and Rick Kelly fourth. Paul Dumbrell in fifth. The battle between Alex Davison and James Bright ended up in Davison's favour. Adrian Burgess and the Team Vodafone crew celebrate in another win.
A very good drive from Jamie Wincup. It was an excellent drive.
And again, they did it on the way in and on the way out and in between in pit lane.
Good strategy and well driven on the outlap. And he was in a class of his own today. Very accurate drive.
So let's check out the provisional results for you. The podium there, 2 Holdens and a Ford. Rick Kelly, as we mentioned, the best of the movers and shakers. Very important day, as we mentioned, for James Courtney in terms of the championship picture. To go up to 8th after starting in 19th position, so a good bank of points. The hard luck story, bad luck story of the day, Craig Lowndes lost it from pole position and could not get it back from there. And Tony D'Alberto, Warren Luff, Jason Bargwanna didn't make it to the end. You've got to feel too for David Reynolds. Started with his best qualifier up in 6th and ends up down in 22nd after all the drama at turn 1. What a consistent performer this 28-year-old is. His 104th V8 Supercar Championship event, his 221st race, and now his 47th race victory. 50% strike rate this year.
Yeah,
winning strike rate, that is.
He's operating at a very high level, Matt, isn't it? And the drive from these guys on board now with Lee Holdsworth was a very good drive also.
Well, they'll be stoked, especially Lee will be stoked after going into qualifying, not really knowing, he spoke to you about it, Scafey, not really knowing what to do with the car. They turned it around beautifully and he qualified in 4th and then raced hard and raced smart, took the advantage and the opportunities when he could. And Stephen Johnson as well will go into tomorrow's race with a lot of confidence, Junior, because he put down a front row qualifying position and also just a couple of little mistakes along the way ends up costing him. So he dragged Lee Holdsworth to the finish line, and Jamie Wincup knows this place well, Victory Lane.
Look at Ray. Ray Robbins is a guy just on the left-hand side there. He's been doing this forever. He's probably one of the best employees we've ever had in V8 Supercar history, and he's every weekend lines those cars up perfectly, doesn't he, mate?
And he just about broke the lap record going backwards up the old pit straight then, Ray. It was
He's
very
a
impressive.
really good guy.
He's a tremendous asset to the business and works hard.
That's a hell of a way to make a championship statement.
Good job, brother.
You just can't beat winning, and this guy is getting very used to it.
Helmet up, helmet up.
Wincup salutes again. And the brains trust at Team Vodafone can certainly take a part of that victory. A massive turnaround against Stephen Johnson in the way and the scheduled pit stop. Effectively, he made up, we estimate, about 4 or 5 seconds on the way in and on the way out. And in the end, that was the end. That was the difference, 4.8 seconds.
Well, Jamie Wincup, congratulations. 10 races this year. You've won 5 of them. Awesome.
Yeah, no, thanks, Barrett. You never know what you're going to get at Winton. It's a little bit of a tricky little circuit, so we didn't qualify the best. We're so happy to come back in the race, and guys did an awesome pit stop. That's what got us out in front, and trust me, there wasn't much rubber there at the end.
Well, you got the job done, Jamie. Congratulations. Well done.
No, thank you very much, and we'll come back out strong tomorrow. Fingers crossed.
All the best, mate.
Yeah, he's now got a 220-point championship lead over his teammate Craig Lowndes. Rick Kelly's putting together a pretty healthy bank of points for the championship. He's done that before. And Wincup has done this before. He's the winner here at Winton.